Hello and welcome to another edition of Disney 101. It's your main man, Tommy, on the spot. Thanks so much for checking us out here today. Hope everyone had a very happy 4th of July. And I sure hope my main man, Steve, had a happy 4th of July. Steve, how are you doing today?
I'm doing magical as always over here. We are in the middle of packing for our cruise that we are sailing away tomorrow. So we're very excited about that.
Absolutely, yes. It is Cruise Eve for you, which I'm sure you're pumped about. And what time? Well, before we get into the cruise, I guess, how was your 4th of July?
It was good. It was kind of low key. We did decide against going to the parks, unfortunately, mostly because the weather kind of was very iffy down here. So there were a couple of times where we were like, oh, do we want to maybe head out? And then thunder would rumble and we were like, maybe not. So we decided to kind of have a low-key night here. We grilled out a little bit and we watched some fireworks that were local in the neighborhood. And we actually did the live stream of the Disney parks at Magic Kingdom. So it was a lot of fun.
Oh, that is very cool. Did you guys put it up on the big screen while you were watching the live stream?
Oh, yeah. We were able to cast it to the big TV in our living room. So
very, very cool. Is there a replay of that somewhere or no?
You could probably find it on YouTube. It was live on YouTube, so you could probably find it. Very
cool. That's awesome. Yeah, no, we went to a friend's house. It was one of these deals where, again, not much foresight went into my planning of the day, but I was smart this time. In the past, so basically our plan was we were going to go to a barbecue for the 4th of July with some friends. Then we were going to go visit some of my family, and one of my friends was out here in Long Island in the Oceanside area, and my family was over in Babylon. So my plan was no big deal. We'll just go do this. Shouldn't be more than a 15-minute drive. And then for 4th of July, I feel like you've got to see fireworks. So that was my big thing, was like, got to see fireworks, got to find a way to see them somehow. So we ended up where when we were at the original party, the first one, our friend said, listen, do you guys want to stick around late tonight? We're going to a big fireworks thing in Valley Stream, which is just right up the road. And I said, sure. I said, it's actually great because we're going to go see my family in Babylon. And then afterwards, we can come back this way. No foresight at all. And then we can come to the fireworks. She was like, awesome. She's like, you do know Babylon's about an hour away, though. And when I looked it up and saw that, my wife was not too thrilled with that plan. I quickly called an audible and actually made a smart decision instead of trying to squeeze everything in. And we just strictly canceled the family plan and hung out for the day in Oceanside and then went to a really nice fireworks deal in Valley Stream, which was great.
It sounds like a lot of fun. It was one of those things here where, we're kind of spoiled with fireworks and stuff, being so close to Disney and Universal and stuff, where we can really see fireworks any night we want to. But like you said, fireworks on 4th of July, it's kind of one of those tradition things. So we definitely had to, put that in a little bit.
Well, one of the things that Ari had said when we were coming back from the fireworks deal, and just everywhere you look, people are shooting off fireworks. There was, I don't know if it's illegal in Florida, but in New York, it's very much illegal to blow off your own fireworks. And everywhere you look, there's like reward signs for if you call and report somebody who's blowing off fireworks. Like you can't blow off fireworks at all. So in one of the, but that doesn't stop anyone. Everyone's blowing off fireworks. And when we were on the highway back, Ari said this reminded her of when you're in Orlando and you're not at the parks that night, and just everywhere you look, you just see the Magic Kingdom fireworks going off and everything on the highway.
So it is very legal here. There's the places on the side of the road. They'll sell them in Walmart and Target. They sell them everywhere. But when you go to one of those stores, like if you just go to like one of those like pop-up places on the side of the road, they make you sign a waiver that says you are buying these fireworks to exclusively either scare away birds or signal trains. So it's kind of one of those weird things where it's they're completely legal as long as you're buying them to scare away birds or signal trains.
There you go.
Which, there's just so many birds and trains to signal and scare away on the 4th of July that you just kind of have to.
Well, we were coming down the road once and somebody had like a big box looking thing, which I guess was shooting out fireworks right next to us on the side. And I quickly threw my window up and ran off because if not, he was going to shoot that firework directly into our car, and that would not have been fun. But I'm guessing that it was one of these things where like the fireworks show ended, and here comes everyone throwing off the amateur fireworks, which were not nearly as nice, obviously, as the professional show that was going on. So it's almost like, what a waste. Like, why bother?
Yeah, I mean, it's different. It's a little bit. It's kind of where if you want to go see fireworks, go to Magic Kingdom, go to Epcot. Like, there's actually professional stuff that's a lot better than whatever you're going to buy. But I mean, there's actually, because it's legal down here and because it's so, like, they almost practically give them away, there are some fairly good fireworks to shoot off. It's not just like, regular firecrackers or, the sparklers and stuff. Like, you can get some heavy duty mortars and stuff. But at the end of the day, like, for us, it's either we're going to go see some professional high end stuff done, or we're just going to sit at home.
Yeah, I'm with you. I feel like it's, I remember as a kid growing up, you'd go to these, like, you'd go to the local park and people would have like professional level type stuff, like just out of the back of their car that they'd be blowing off for like an hour, and you'd sit there and just watch these things. The problem is after 9/11, that kind of, all that, at least in New York, went kaput. It's not allowed.
Yeah.
Well, we had a little bit of a conversation off the air that I decided to kind of cut off because I was like, we're having a good conversation. We may as well go on the air and do this. But before we get to it, you did get a chance to see Star Wars. You did get a chance to see Spider-Man: Far From Home this past week. What did you think about it? Without giving away too many spoilers, since it'll be tough to kind of do that.
It was really good, and I can also definitely see why they're saying that this is really the end of Phase 3 and the end. This because it's definitely everything is post Endgame and post everything. So this is the first little while, the first act, I would say, is them kind of dealing with all of the repercussions of everything happening. During what they call the blip. So the event that happens from the Thanos finger snap into the event of Endgame, it's in the movie. It's called the blip. So
because Spider-Man's gone, he was in it, right?
Him and half the population of the world, right, blinked out, and then all of a sudden now they're back. So it's kind of one of those things where I think it was one of those things where everybody that didn't blip aged normally, and then everybody that came back, like whatever age they were 5 years. Because remember, Endgame, there's that 5-year gap. So, it was kind of funny where things were like, my older brother was my older brother, but now he's my younger brother. So it's weird. I don't get this. So kind of stuff. So it's like, oh, okay. And, so the first little bit is them dealing with it and them kind of saying, hey, this happened. This is stuff that while all of this other stuff that's going on in the movie is going on, there's the stuff that we kind of have to deal with as like just regular everyday stuff, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah, that sounds awesome.
And then, the movie kicks off and, the whole plot basically is around Peter and his school group taking their trip to Europe. And, it kind of really, half the movie felt like that kind of, kid summer trip in Europe, like almost Euro trip kind of vibe, where, he has the subplot where he's trying to, get MJ alone to tell him how he feels. Meanwhile, all of this other crazy stuff is going on that he has to deal with at Spider-Man. So, one of the things that I always liked about the Spider-Man movies is him having to deal with his life as Peter Parker and his role as Spider-Man, which I think this movie did a really good job of.
Yeah, no, that sounds really cool. I always get a kick out of that as well, and how he tries to like blend in and make sure that nobody notices that he's Spider-Man. Is the idea that he doesn't want anyone to know he's Spider-Man because he can get arrested for all the stuff he does as Spider-Man?
Not really. It's more of, if you are a bad guy and you're trying to go after Spider-Man, and that Spider-Man is the 16-year-old kid, so where he lives and his high school and, who his friends are and that kind of stuff. So you can get at him personally if you come after him as Peter Parker versus coming after him as Spider-Man, which was kind of, it's happened in other, it happened in Iron Man when Tony Stark was like, hey, I'm Iron Man, come get me. And they proceeded to come get him as Tony Stark instead of as Iron Man. So, it's kind of one of those things where him being a 16-year-old kid going to high school, he didn't want that life. He didn't necessarily want that Tony Stark persona. He wanted to be Peter Parker as much as he could.
Right. That makes a lot more sense. That does make a lot of sense. Yeah, that is really cool. Unfortunately, I did not get a chance to see the movie just yet, but you did say there's some after-credit scenes in this one.
There are two after credit scenes. So there's one that's kind of that mid credit, once they do the title screen, there's that credit, which it has huge implications moving forward, as does the actual post credit scene, like the end credits after everything. I don't want to give anything away because there are definitely things that you need to be there to watch. But huge implications, huge things for the first one was huge for Spider-Man moving forward, and then the one at the end is huge for the MCU moving forward. So
damn.
Yeah, so you can definitely 100%. I'd highly recommend sticking around for those stingers and for those end credit scenes.
Yeah, it's one of these things where that's really all you got to tell me, and I'll go sit through the movie and just be waiting for the after credit scenes the entire time. My wife, on the other hand, feels like it should end when the movie ends, so she's not the most into these specific things, but it is what it is. I love them. I always get a kick out of that, and so I'm really excited. But you would say that Spider-Man gets the movie itself gets 2 thumbs up from you?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it was a great Spider-Man movie, and it was a great comic book movie, and it really did a very good job of kind of putting an end to Phase 3 while simultaneously setting up, the next foreseeable future for whatever is going to happen in the Marvel MCU.
There you go. Yeah, it's one of these things where, I think while you're gone, I'm probably going to see it. Maybe what I'll do is I'll do a little kind of how we did the first time around, like maybe a little live vlog or something like that on the channel, not giving too much away. And then when you return, we can kind of reconnect and give our thoughts on the movie itself.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then also, you've never seen Toy Story 4, right?
I did not see Toy Story 4 yet, actually, because we are waiting to see it while we're on the cruise.
Oh, right.
Because we figured, one of the great things about Disney Cruises is that they have first run movies that you can see. They have a huge actual full-sized movie theater that, usually they're kind of playing movies throughout the day. And one of those movies usually is going to be a first run movie that's actually in the theaters right now. So they'll probably be running Endgame as well, which we may or may not check out. But they're definitely going to be doing Toy Story 4 at some point, which we're definitely going to check out.
Very cool. Yeah, no, I think that we should definitely, because I'll probably see that this week as well. So maybe we can go ahead and do that. I'm not 100% sure about Toy Story 4, but for sure. So right now the plan is my wife and I, we don't go to the movies very often. When we do, we typically do like one of us gets to choose a movie and then the other one gets to choose a movie type thing. Where her movies are typically the type of movies like the series of what are the 50 Shades series of movies, which are always a lot of fun for me. But that's the type of movies that she usually enjoys. I usually will choose something that's from Marvel or something to that extent. However, my big problem, my big conundrum that I'm going through right now is that the movies that the Disney is not only putting out Spider-Man this past week and Toy Story a couple weeks ago, but Stuber is coming out this upcoming week, which features one of my favorite folks and one of my favorite wrestlers of all time, Dave Bautista, in really his first starring role. So it's a tough decision for me because I had heard Dave Bautista come out on Chris Jericho's podcast and say, that he really wants this movie to do well. He wants people to go see it. And it's really important that people go and see this movie during its first opening weekend because that's when, the critic claims will come, right?
Yeah.
So he was saying that, it really needs to do well or he's afraid he's never going to get any more chances to be kind of that starring role. So it's tough for me to kind of figure out if I should go see Spider-Man Far From Home or if I should go see Stuber and support Big Dave.
And then there is going to be The Lion King in a couple of weeks also. So
yeah, but that one she wants to see. So that one, we're good with. Toy Story.
It's kind of one of those things where, the first few movies that The Rock was in when he made that transition from wrestler to actor also didn't really do very well.
No, I did see most of them though.
We definitely did.
It was like, what was it? He was Scorpion King, which was okay, but it was like character based.
Yeah, and then there was it was something like The Runaway or something where he had to go into the jungle to get Sean William Scott.
Oh yeah, that was rough.
Yeah, and a few other things, and also I don't know if you saw it, but there's going to be a Jumanji 2.
That I'm going to see.
Trailer just dropped this week also for that. So
Yeah, Jumanji 1 was fantastic, so I'll definitely go check that out. Did you see Jumanji 1?
Yeah.
Thought it was very well done. So yeah, I mean, so we'll see. I'm probably going to go with Spider-Man, though. I feel like, at the end of the day, I'll see Stuber, but it'll most likely be kind of on my own time and maybe at one of those, the first Tuesday after it comes out, since the theaters here are $5-6 for tickets.
There you go.
A little more of a justification for that. But who knows? It'll be fun. That movie, though, is very interesting because it's an R-rated Disney movie, which Disney does very few and far between.
Yeah, they used to do a little bit more when they had like Touchstone Pictures and like their other kind of their movie studios that they could kind of distance themselves a little bit from, where it's like, no, this is a Touchstone movie, this isn't a Disney movie, but it's the same company ultimately. But yeah, so it's going to be really interesting.
I am also in terms of Spider-Man is the last Marvel one for a while, though, is it not?
To my knowledge, yeah.
I think for like
there's nothing that's really been released that, I mean, there are like a lot of unreleased and a lot of speculation on what's going to be next, like Black Panther and Doctor Strange and stuff, but there's not really going to be anything coming out anytime soon.
Well, Dave did say on that same podcast that there's definitely going to be Guardians of the Galaxy 3 that he signed on for. So we know that's coming, but I don't think for a while.
Yeah.
So, all right, but the main thing of our show here today, you are preparing to take off on your cruise tomorrow. So what time do you guys have a flight to get on out of there?
Well, the good thing is we don't have a flight because we're sailing out of Port Canaveral. It's about an hour and a half, 2-hour drive over to the port from our house. So we have, the good thing is that you have, because there are thousands of people trying to get onto this ship, and there's only really one entrance, so they stagger the times. So there's a check-in time and a boarding time and stuff like that. So we have a relatively early check-in time, around 10:45, which means we're probably going to be leaving the house around 8 o'clock or so that we can kind of, grab something to eat maybe before, hit on the road and, grab our parking spot and actually head over to the port and do all that stuff. So we're probably heading out of the house around 8 o'clock.
There you go. That's not too bad. I mean, most of my flights are like 6, 7 in the morning, and I'm usually heading out of here around 4 o'clock, 5 in the morning. So that 8 o'clock doesn't sound bad at all. Are you already all packed up?
We're in the middle of packing because we were doing like a lot of like last minute laundry and stuff. And there, we're going through and like, okay, what are we going to need? We know we're going to want to go to the gym that there's the fitness center that's on the cruise. We're going to pack, we have to pack at least like 2 bathing suits because we got 2 different times at Castaway Cay, which is Disney's private island. And then, if we ever want to go to the pool or do anything else, hot tubs, whatever. So we're packing that. And then we're saying, okay, there's going to be pirate night that's on the cruise where everybody dresses up as pirates. So we got to make sure we bring our pirate costumes.
That is very cool.
We are going to it's the adult only signature dining restaurant on board the ship. There's 2 of them. We're going to one. It's called Paulo, and it's actually for my birthday.
Oh,
so it's
cool.
it's gonna be on my birthday. So we have to bring dress up clothes for that. So it's like it's not just regular vacation clothes; it's a lot more. So we're going through and doing a lot of last minute laundry and packing and stuff.
It sounds awesome. It sounds like. And how long are you guys going on the cruise for?
Technically it's 6 days, but it's 5 nights, 6 days.
There you go. And is it typically something where, because folks are going and they know it's Disney, do you typically see folks with the Disney garb and the Disney Mickey ears, so to speak, and different things to that extent, or do people usually leave them at home?
I wouldn't say Mickey ears so much, but definitely there's going to be a lot of Disney apparel. There's still going to be kids running around in pirate costumes and Disney princesses because there's a Bibbidi Bobbidi boutique on board the ship as well. And there's also a lot of different character meet and greets, so people are going to be dressed up for those. So yeah, there's still, it's one of those things where a lot of people go and they say, oh, I don't want to go on a Disney cruise, but it's going to be nothing but Disney. And there's, more Disney on a Disney cruise than there would say a Carnival cruise.
Right.
But it's not really, it's it's a different feeling being on a Disney cruise versus say going to the theme parks, because obviously theme parks, it's everywhere you look, it's Disney stuff, but it's not just Disney stuff. There's also a lot of cruise stuff, and there's a lot of just exclusive stuff that it just happens to be Disney themed. But you know, there's the Disney Island where you can have characters walking around, and actually, especially over at the Serenity Cove area, that's 18 and up on the island. Captain Jack, you know, Jack Sparrow likes to walk around up and down, see if anybody has any rum or anything. So it's a really cool, yeah, it's just, I'm so excited.
That sounds like it. Yeah, no, it's a shame. You know, we were trying to plan to join you guys. It's a shame that it didn't quite work out. Trying to figure out my situation that you're aware of, and it's taken a little longer than I was hoping for. All good things though, so we'll see. But I am excited for you. It sounds like it's going to be great. And when
There's always next time. There's always next time.
Yes, and definitely something we want to do. We do have friends that were going honeymooning with a different cruise company, and this past week their cruise was canceled the day before they were supposed to leave for their honeymoon, which is, and I won't, you know, no reason to bring up what cruise company that was, but I can't imagine you're so excited to go on your honeymoon, you've been waiting for this, and your cruise gets canceled. And thankfully, they had some family and friends who were able to help them pull some strings, and it seems like they're having a nice time. But can't imagine, like, you're so excited,
especially overseas, like that you know, because you know, when it's something that's, at least luckily for us, it's local, but yeah, something where it's overseas and you're, you know, all the way over there in Europe or wherever, you know, yeah, I could see that really. That's just like dropping a bomb on someone.
Absolutely, and especially when you consider the fact that their flights are non-refundable, obviously. So
yeah.
It's not like they could have canceled the flights. So the flights were still out there, and then they had to figure out where to go from there. When it was supposed to be, they get there and then obviously go on the cruise, which I'm sure a lot of people are doing for the cruise that you're going on. But that sounds like a really great. And when do you return?
So we come back on Friday. So we're leaving tomorrow on Sunday, and then getting back on Friday.
Well, depending how tired you are, maybe we can reconnect on Saturday and hear all about it.
You know, we'll probably, you know, maybe take a nap or something. It's not, you know, one of the good things is that it's not like a typical Disney vacation where a lot of people say, especially when you go to Disney World, you feel like you need a vacation after your vacation.
Ain't that the truth? Yeah.
You know, the Disney cruise it's so, especially this kind of cruise where really it's so we have the full itinerary is day one, we're leaving Port Canaveral. All aboard time is 3:45, so probably figure that we'll get out of the port around 4 o'clock or so. And then the next day is at Disney Castaway Cay. Spend all day there from 8:30 to 4:45. The following day is in Nassau in the Bahamas, which again, you're there for 8 hours. And Nassau is, we're actually going to, this time around, we're using that as an opportunity to check out a lot of the stuff that's on board the ship, because a lot of times, sometimes, especially on the bigger ships, things can get crowded. But with the fact that it's a port day, everybody's going to be hopefully off enjoying stuff on the island. And we're going to use that opportunity to check out the spa and do a few other things that you have a little bit more space and a little bit more luxury of kind of taking your own time and doing stuff. And then day after that, we're going back to Disney Castaway Cay, which we're going to, you know, just, again, hang out probably by the beach, probably do the Castaway 5K, which is the race that they do on the island.
That's very cool.
Which is really cool. And then we have a day at sea before returning back to Port Canaveral the following Friday. So we've done cruises in the past, like especially the one that we did last year for Alaska. It was a lot of running and gun. It was a lot of running around. It was a lot of ports and a lot of other stuff to go and do, which we absolutely loved. But this is definitely a different feeling, and it's going to be a lot more laid back and relaxing. And we're taking it as it's going to be 6 days of just nothing but relaxation, which is awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. That is really cool. And it is something you were telling me beforehand that you guys are just going to completely disconnect as well while you're over there, right?
Yeah, I mean, that is one of my favorite things about cruises, because we were talking about, me having to live stream vlogs and, you know, taking pictures and stuff.
The vlogger in me, you know me, I'm just, I go down that rabbit hole and sit there and watch vlogs all day long. So, I'll do my best to take videos and pictures and stuff and post them later.
but because of the fact that there's not really a lot of Wi-Fi or data on board the ship that is free, stuff you can use. There is a Wi-Fi that you can use to connect to the Navigator app, which is basically a digital itinerary, and you can do anything from see what kind of entertainment and offerings and stuff are going on that day, to checking out movie times, to seeing what your menu is going to be that night at dinner. So there's a lot of different stuff that you can do on the Disney Navigator app, but that's really the only thing that they let you get onto for free. Everything else you kind of have to pay for, which we use as a great opportunity to completely disconnect from the outside world. And I think aside from maybe watching the World Cup game on Sunday, we're going to have absolutely no communication with the outside world.
That is very, very cool. Yeah, the World Cup game, shout out to the U.S. women. We are rooting for them. They are in it again in the finals. And who are they playing this year?
You caught me off guard because I don't know who won the game.
Sure. I've just been following that they've been winning, and it's great. I remember last year being actually at one of my favorite spots in Manhattan. The last time they were there, Brother Jimmy's Barbecue, a couple years ago when they were in the finals, and them winning and just everyone going completely insane. And that's really awesome. I hope that they are able to win again, and their team is just loaded with talent. So that's very cool. Looks
like they're going to be playing Sweden.
Sweden, there you go. And are you? And so they do have television, different things like that you could watch.
Yeah, so there's an Irish pub themed sports bar kind of thing. It's called O'Gill's, which is actually where last year when we were on the cruise in Alaska, we watched a lot of the Stanley Cup games. So they'll play a lot of different sports and stuff like that.
Because you don't have
that's really the only place where we get that kind of thing.
Because you don't get your own personal television, do you?
You do, but the channels are really, really limited, partially because of service, partially because of certain licensing laws and that kind of thing. So, broadcast laws and a whole bunch of other things. So there's a TV in the room that you can, but there are 3 or 4 that just run, news about the ship and what we're going to be doing the next day, important information kind of thing.
I'd love to watch that one.
That would be great. There's a DVC advertisement one that plays on a loop. There's actually a few that do a bunch of Disney movies.
Nice.
Which are always, and then also there's on demand as well. So there's Disney movies on demand as well if you wanted to.
Oh, see, that's cool.
Yeah. So there is a TV, and part of the thing is just much like when you're at Disney World, you're not really spending a whole lot of time in the room just watching TV. That's more for if you have downtime, if you have a little bit of time, maybe coming back in between your show and dinner. Maybe you run back to your room real quick, maybe to change or something. But that's really the only time that we spend in the room.
We sleep with the TV on, so for us.
Well, yeah, and that's great for it too. It's one of the only times when we ever watch certain movies. Me, I'm a huge Disney nerd, but there are just some movies that were I don't remember ever seeing this movie other than on a cruise.
Yeah, no, it's pretty cool, and it's something where that sounds. I remember we went down in 2013, and there was a television, and they kept playing that on loop, like a preview of the parks, where that lady went off of the side of. Yeah. She was like, there's no track, and then it went back on, and I think I asked you, is this the only channel they have? And you jokingly said no. They also have all the Disney channels that Disney owns, like ABC and ESPN, but that's it. And I was like, that's awesome. And I think you were playing around, but I thought at the time that was really cool if the idea was they only had Disney channels while you were at Disney World or Disney on the Disney cruise. But that sounds
it's one of those things where they definitely have those, and anything else is maybe extra.
Right. That would be awesome. I would be into that. But it sounds like you guys have a lot of fun planned, and I hope you guys have a great time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Are you guys? Is there anything specific? Is there any shows specifically that are going to be on the ship while you're there?
So there are. So for this one, at least from what I understand, there's sometimes there's going to be certain ships have a signature show. So on the Magic, it's a Rapunzel themed show. I think on the Wonder, it's Frozen because you're in Alaska most of the time, so it's kind of appropriate.
Makes sense.
For the Dream, because it's a shorter cruise, as far as, it's not one of the 7 night cruises, there are certain shows that are usually always there. And I would say, it's going to be Disney Dreams, or it's going to be, Disney, the names of the shows, but they're actually kind of original to the ships,
Oh,
and they actually
nice.
have their own story and that kind of thing. Most of the time, they involve a lot of different Disney characters and a lot of singing and dancing numbers. So it's not just that they're going to be showing, for example, like a Beauty and the Beast style play or something like that. Sometimes there's Aladdin, there's Beauty and the Beast, Tangled, Frozen. So there's a bunch of different Broadway style shows that they will play. Most of the time, those are on longer cruises, though.
That sounds awesome, though. And you were saying for the show that you're going to, I mean, for the place that you're going to be watching, eating rather, that one you said is signature dining, so that one is like a bit of an upcharge, correct?
Yeah, that one is a little bit of an upcharge, but that is also an optional thing. And we're doing it, one, because it's my birthday, so we kind of want to do something a little bit special, but also because it's just so phenomenal as far as the regular fine dining restaurants that you go to each night. They are definitely, it's tough to compare because, one of the things that I used to do with Disney Vacation Club, I was very heavy in booking cruises. So, of course, one of the first things that everybody always asks is about the food. And you're like, okay, well, how does it compare versus other things that I might know about? And it's tough to kind of compare the food that's on board the ship to anything else. But the best job that I could probably do is if you were to go to one of the restaurants that is on property, but at one of the resorts.
Gotcha.
So like not super, like not, maybe halfway between a regular dining restaurant and like a signature dining restaurant. So think maybe like closer to the Yachtman than, maybe like the Crystal Palace.
Oh, okay.
But definitely, it's, you have great dining options. You're not getting, Golden Corral level food, as someone actually asked me once when I was.
If you would get Golden Corral level food on the Disney.
Well, because I had mentioned that for breakfast and lunch, a lot of times there's a buffet,
right?
And to their credit, a lot of times, especially if you're not necessarily familiar with Disney buffets, because Disney buffets can get really good, especially if you go to like Boma or Cape May, great buffets. But if you're not used to a Disney buffet, a lot of times that first thought is the Old Country buffet or the Sizzler or like regular buffets that quality can kind of be lacking for quantity. But right. on the Disney cruise buffets, they are some of the best buffet food I've ever had. You're going definitely higher quality than you might be used to going to a buffet. And what I liked about it was they a lot of times definitely had healthier options, as far as it's not just, chicken fingers and French fries and, cheeseburgers and stuff like that. You can absolutely get that, especially if you have a picky eater on board. But you can go with healthier options. You can go with options that might be kind of off the beaten trail for you. And you don't have to feel like you're obligated to stick to the old standbys, because since it is a buffet, grab a piece of that, chicken masala chicken. And if you don't like it, just go grab something different. You don't have to feel like you've been invested in all this other food.
Yeah. No, on a vacation, I typically enjoy a good buffet. I think that it gives you a couple good options. There's always the old standbys too that I thoroughly enjoy. And from going to Goofy's Kitchen, I can tell you that I'm a big fan of the Disney buffet style pizzas and chicken.
Yeah, and there is that too, and you can get, sometimes there's a pizza station, there's a seafood station, there's like a lot of times there's usually a cutting board station, so they'll have some sort of like roasted turkey or like that like steak or something that's you kind of they do the slices off and they hand to you. So that is really good. But as far as the dining, when you're getting to dinner, it's that step above where you're going to probably more closer to because if I say, oh, it's like Disney park food, if your first thing that you're coming to mind is maybe, Cosmic Rays or something where it's like fast casual, it's definitely more geared towards the resort dining restaurants.
Right.
And then the restaurant that we're going to, Paulo, it's multiple courses. And it's one of those things where we're definitely going to have to go to the gym before and maybe after to gear up, for that, because it's always one of those things where, if it wasn't for the fact that they had a dress code, you would have to show up in sweatpants.
Okay.
Because of the expanding belt line there.
Yeah.
But it is great. It's a step above, and probably getting closer to maybe even a step above some of the signature restaurants that are there at Disney property.
Well, that's not bad. That's pretty cool. It sounds like a good. And sometimes I feel like it's okay to, especially if you're going on vacation and it is your birthday vacation, and it feels it is definitely a little sad not being there for your birthday this time around, as I've tried a couple of times to make it down for. Last year we were together on your birthday. As a matter of fact, I was just watching earlier, going through some old videos on my phone that I may unload on here, including the time that you had me try a jalapeno, and I faked my way through it and said it wasn't so bad, but you could tell on my face I was writhing in pain.
I don't remember that.
Well, that wasn't at Disney, but I do feel like because it was in the midst of a Disney trip and it included us, I feel like it's okay to post it here. I feel like we
absolutely
could, yeah.
Please
so
do.
I might post that one in the upcoming days, but yeah, no, I definitely I remember the first time we came down was for your birthday in 2013.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where this is probably one of the first times that I'm actually doing a big to-do for my birthday. Usually, I'm not a big birthday celebrator.
Me neither.
But it just it worked out where the cruise was right, and everything else the stars aligned, and we decided to go with this. So we're very excited about it.
Oh yeah, it sounds awesome. And I was kidding. I'm a huge birthday big to do for weeks and weeks and months of birthday nonsense throughout the entire time around. And last year, I remember telling my wife, we were away for a couple of weeks last year. We did a trip to Disneyland for Anaheim and ended up getting down to Nashville for a few days and ended up doing a trip to Vegas for a couple of days. And it was just thing after thing. And it was, we were blessed last year around the time for my birthday. And at the end, I had asked people if I wanted to get together. And this was now I had returned. And this was really close to Halloween, so no one could do it. And I told my wife, I said, it's a shame I wasn't able to do anything for my birthday when we just did weeks and weeks of trips for it. So that sounds awesome. And I'm glad that you were able to go and experience that. And if anyone is, I guess when you return next week, we'll be able to kind of talk about, things that you would recommend if someone to go on this cruise in the future.
Yeah, I mean, this cruise, or because of the fact that especially Disney Cruise Line, there are so many different options and there are so many different kinds of cruises that you can go on. So really, it kind of goes to: do you want a long cruise? Do you want a short cruise? Do you want hot weather, cold weather, medium weather? What kind of stuff do you want to do on your cruise? What kind of places do you want to go to? So those are all kinds of things to think about when you're trying to book a cruise, because a lot of times people just say, I want to go on a cruise.
Right.
Like, okay, great. Where do you want to go? I don't know, somewhere warm. Okay, well, do you want to go to Mexico? Do you want to go to the Bahamas? Do you want to go to the Caribbean? Do you want do you want to go to Europe? Where do you want to go? So it's definitely one of those things where you can go almost practically anywhere, especially on a Disney cruise.
Excellent. Yeah, no, it's definitely sounds awesome. Sounds like a lot of fun. And I know the one you guys did, the Alaska cruise, that one you shipped from out of Vancouver, right?
Yeah. So we you sail out of Vancouver, but it's all up and down Alaska, which it was absolutely great because we got to check out Vancouver for a little bit, which is really great when you can make your port that you're leaving just a little mini vacation in and of itself, which is really true for a lot of these places. Going from Vancouver or San Diego or even like Galveston, Texas, there's a lot of different places to check out around these ports. goes without saying anywhere in Europe that you're going to be leaving from, places like Barcelona or Rome or, Dover, a lot of different places. So you can make a little mini trip in and of itself just before or after the cruise, and then just go on your vacation and do your thing.
Sounds awesome. Well, before we do get on out of here today, I did want to run 2 news bits by you quickly. One we spoke a little bit about off air, but I'll review it here. The new character buses, the Sensational 6 buses, are rolling out right now at Walt Disney World through Disney Transportation. And these buses, have you had a chance to take a look at these?
I did, and I think they're pretty cool. I know you had a little bit of a couple of feelings about them.
Well, I like the idea that, so they have Mickey, Minnie, Donald, Daisy, Goofy, and Pluto as your top 6. Do you consider those the top 6 characters for Disney?
So it depends on what we're talking about here, because there's a lot of different nicknames for them. So usually you can go sometimes Fab 4, sometimes Fab 5, depending on who you want to include, and then Sensational 6.
Right.
And then you can, and I know you were kind of a little bit salty about the exclusion of Chip and Dale here.
And they should be, you know what it is? They could easily get away with, no one wants to ride the Dale bus. But what they could do is maybe put Daisy and Donald together and then put Chip and Dale so that everybody's included. And then have Mickey by himself, Minnie by her. You gotta have the Fab 4 by themselves, which is, well, the problem is Donald that is with Daisy, if she's included. But I always feel like Chip and Dale deserve some inclusion on that. I do.
Well, and the thing is that, you want each one of these their opportunity to shine. Mickey, Minnie, Minnie and Daisy can do just fine by themselves. And then you have Mickey and Donald. So, usually if
maybe
you
put
go
Mickey and Pluto together, and then you solve it.
But then Pluto by himself, there's a lot of Pluto fans out there too. So, and so do you want to, does that mean that you're partnering Pluto with Mickey, or are you partnering Mickey with Pluto?
You'd have to do one on each side of the bus.
Yeah, but still, like, you'd have to go,
that is tough.
If you're going each one having their own thing, then you're kind of, devaluing some of these other characters.
Because a lot of times I feel like it's either the 6 of them, and it's either Mickey, it's definitely Mickey, Donald, Goofy, Minnie. Those are your big 4, right?
Well, so yeah, it depends which itineration we're going with, because there's like the Fab 5, which is Mickey, Minnie, Donald, Goofy, and Pluto, and then you got to add Daisy in there, so that bumps it up to a Sensational 6.
Right.
And then if you're going to add Chip and Dale, but you want to add them as one, is that 7 or is that 8?
See, it's tough. I don't think there's too many fans who are like, man, Dale is my dude, but I'm not too big on Chip. Now, as a kid, I was. But I don't think there's too many folks who are like, you need a Dale. I think they could be together. Problem is, then you'd have to add a 7. But I've seen it where Chip and Dale are there instead of Daisy and Pluto.
I'm sure if you asked true Disney fans who they like better, Chip or Dale, they have an opinion, because they're different characters. They have different personalities.
I agree.
Especially if you've seen Rescue Rangers, they have absolutely, one is Magnum PI, the other one's Indiana Jones. So.
And I will say that Dale was always my favorite growing up, so I can't even really say it for myself.
Right. So then you have to say, okay, that's going to be 8 then. So what's our nickname for 8?
The Elite 8.
The Elite 8. Okay.
You can do that.
You can do an Elite 8, but then where do you stop? Where, now we're getting into, okay. But then, there's a lot of people that are going to say, DuckTales is really popular right now. We're going to exclude Huey, Dewey, and Louie here too.
I don't think so. I feel like that you could cut it off right after Chip and Dale. I feel like their exclusion is pretty big. I feel like they belong there.
They're in a lot of different stuff.
Yeah. I feel like
they're most of the stage shows. They're in a lot of different stuff.
I think the only way they could have done it is they could have done pairs. I think you could have done. See, it's tough because you can't really. Maybe unless you did, you could have done Daisy and Donald together, Mickey and Minnie together, Goofy and Pluto together, since they're both dogs, and then you could do Chip and Dale together, and then maybe do one for like Buzz and Woody and Jesse, and then Huey, Dewey, and Louie, and then you have your 6, and you're including more characters that way.
Yeah, I mean, but now I'm thinking, but instead of doing that, what if you did, like movie characters, or what if you did princesses?
All the princesses, yeah, that's true. Well, you see, I always look at it like when WWE does their production trucks, they have it set up where it's a slew of characters. They don't have the John Cena truck. They have like 10 characters on each one. But
so then you could do kind of maybe theming where you could do the classics where you can, and then that way you can crowd in and you can throw in Chippendale, and maybe you can do one where it's like 90s animated TV shows, and that way you can include Chippendale and the Rescue Rangers, and you can do DuckTales and like Gummy Bears, and throw in all of those 90s Disney Channel originals.
I like it. I think that's a good idea. I think we should tell them. But these new ideas for the buses are pretty cool. They have some cool things on them. They look great. And if you go on WDW News today, they do have some pictures both of the exterior and the interior. We'll put some links in the description if you guys want to check those out. One of the things that is really cool about them is there's ports, USB ports to charge your phones, and free Wi-Fi in the actual buses. Now, I will say the USB port, that's gigantic. And I bet there'll be people who will just get on those just to quickly get a quick charge rather than buying the little portable chargers in their own right. The Wi-Fi, I don't know that that's the most necessary, but it's a cool thing to have, I guess, either way.
I feel like at this, we're at that point with technology where when there's not Wi-Fi, people are like up in arms about it. So...
Well, and I hate to say it, I mean, I'm even a little guilty of that myself. It was one of the first things we talked about was when you said there was Wi-Fi, they were charging for Wi-Fi. I was like, Wi-Fi's not included. It makes no sense. But you're right.
I mean, I'm not going to lie. My mind was kind of blown last time I was up there in New York and we took a trip on the subway and there was Wi-Fi in the subway. My experience with the subway is always that there is never any sort of signal, whether it's cellular or data. And I'm just, usually just kind of at a given where I'm saying, okay, I'm going to be in here for 45 minutes and I'm just going to be completely dark.
Exactly.
Having Wi-Fi on the subway was huge to me. So,
and it's one of these things where they've actually made renovations throughout the subway stations, like big time renovations to have that Wi-Fi there.
Yeah. So I mean, I guess it's a similar thing here where if there was not that there needs to be. But the fact that there is now is a big thing. Yeah.
Well, hey, I do think these are cool buses. There's something I think that it continues with the Disney theming. I think it's long overdue, too. Like, I don't think that Disney should have had Disney transportation looking like MTA buses going around. You know what I mean?
That is fair. But, they used to do, like, if there was a big movie release, they would do a wrap, and I remember there was there were Thor buses and Avengers buses, and there was a Thor monorail and an Iron Man monorail once.
And that was before they had any sort of inclusion of Marvel in the park, so it was kind of like, oh my god, they're including Marvel, they're like acknowledging that Disney now owns Marvel, which is really cool.
Well, and yet part of the thing was that because there was still that deal with Universal and everything because Universal here in Orlando has Islands of Adventure that has all of the Marvel stuff on it, there was still a thing where you couldn't have any sort of Marvel anything inside the parks. And because the Epcot monorail does make that quick lap inside the park, anytime there was some sort of promotional monorail that was Marvel themed, it couldn't be that Epcot monorail. It had to either be the Resort Loop, or it had to be the Magic Kingdom one. It could not be the Epcot monorail.
Yeah, that's it's definitely fair, and it's one of these things that I think it is fun, and it's always cool to see. I mean, those clearly. Do you feel like those were expensive renovations, or do you feel like they're mostly painted over probably the older ones? No.
I mean, the way that I see it inside, it looks like it's the same buses. So, I mean, I doubt that a lot of these it was kind of one of those things where a lot of these buses probably needed some TLC anyway, so they took that opportunity to really upgrade them.
To go from there. Yeah, no, that makes sense. My last thing I wanted to touch on. I'm sorry.
I saw that actually Monorail Silver also one of the monorails just got renovated too. So it's also one of those things where those monorails have been around and in service for a long time. So I'm sure anytime that they are due for some sort of renovation that's going to be extensive, we'll also probably see a lot more tech in the monorails.
Oh yeah, I think you're 100% right. I bet that starts to have Wi-Fi, and hopefully they bring back the monorail music and everything that came with the monorail originally that they've removed. But I don't know.
Yeah.
We are going to get that. Last thing I wanted to touch on, though, I don't know if you'd heard this story. This is recently they just announced that Disney has removed a potentially, and this is a story from Slate.com from Rhodes Murphy. Basically, Disney has removed a potentially controversial casting couch scene from the Fox blooper sequence that runs during the credits of Toy Story 2. The scene, which shows the character Stinky Pete, aka the Prospector, engaging in a suggestive flirtation with two Barbie dolls while offering to help them score a role in Toy Story 3, has reportedly been removed from new releases from the film on streaming and physical media. In light of the hashtag #MeToo movement's influence in Hollywood, and especially in the light of the sexual harassment allegations against Toy Story 2's director, John Lasseter, the scene is no longer plays now the same way it did in 1999. You heard about this?
I did actually hear about this, and it is not surprising. I actually forgot about. I used to love when Pixar would do those bloopers at the end of the movies.
Oh, it's fantastic.
They stopped doing them after, I think, like Monsters Inc. or something. After a few. But I used to love those bloopers, and it's weird that I forgot about that one, maybe intentionally. But it's not really surprising because now looking back and hearing about it, first off, it's kind of not necessarily a kid-appropriate joke when it came out.
No, it's not. It's weird.
There's always kind of, but there was always that kind of joke almost where, it was a running gag of, sleazy Hollywood executives doing that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But it turns out that one of those sleazy Hollywood executives was John Lasseter, who produced this movie and a bunch of other Pixar movies. So it's not so funny anymore when it turns out to not actually really be too far off from what may or may not have actually happened.
Right.
And also, if I'm not mistaken, I don't want to diminish or anything, but didn't Kelsey Grammer also get in trouble for something at some point too? Some sort of inappropriate comment or something. I feel like he may have.
He might have, and he's the guy who plays the voice of Stinky Pete.
And he is the voice of Stinky Pete. So.
Yeah.
Everything around that kind of, I'm okay with it. I feel like I'm less upset about that removal than I am Steven Tyler's shocker from Rock and Roller Coaster. I'm still really salty about that one.
Yeah. Well, and people say all the time that, I heard some people. Oh, great. I hear some people saying that, it's one of these situations where, it ruins the authenticity of the original movie. But for me, I think it's fine to do that. You don't want, a kid watching that movie and saying, especially now with Toy Story being so big, that, I know people who went to go see all 4 Toy Stories in the theaters this past year. You don't necessarily want kids to go in there and think that that's the way that things should work out. So. Yeah,
I mean, there's differences. There's a difference between something being a product of the time and something that
never should have been.
Yeah, like it shouldn't. It really probably it wasn't. We're not talking that it was necessarily that long ago. It's not like this movie came out in the 1950s or something, and this was an acceptable joke. Like this was only a few years ago, really. So I kind of feel like maybe. I don't know. It was probably a joke that kind of skirted underneath the rug to begin with, and that when they went back and said, "Okay, we can kind of fix this problem," but it's not the first time that Disney has done that kind of thing. I mean, the Song of the South.
Yeah.
Look no further than that, and how every single movie in the Disney catalog, including anything that's in the vault, is going to be streaming on Disney Plus later this year, except for Song of the South.
They're not doing Song of the South, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, they could have gone the way of Warner Brothers, where anytime Warner Brothers is about to, either if they released it on a DVD or they show it on TV or something like that, there's a disclaimer that says, hey, I'm going to be paraphrasing, but kind of says, hey, so you're about to see some kind of messed up stuff. Some of it wasn't right at the time, and it's certainly not right now, but to deny that these things were actually produced and happened would deny a lot of the struggles and a lot of the problems that we've gone to get to this point. And right. I feel like that's all, that's to me a little bit more of an acceptable way to do things, to kind of present them as it was, but with the disclaimer of saying, we don't agree with anything that's about to happen, but it's important to know that we keep these intact the way they are.
Exactly. Yeah. And I did hear that this is now the way that the movie is going to be from now on. So when it does stream on Disney Plus, they are not going to have that scene in there at all.
Yeah, and well, I mean, it was a post-credit scene. It was like part of the gag reel. It doesn't necessarily add anything to the movie anyway. It's not like they're cutting out a very integral, subplot or anything like that. They're cutting out a throwaway bit at the end of the movie. So, at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter that much. Had this been a bigger part of the movie, all of a sudden, for some reason, we see Barbie showing up everywhere, like randomly.
Right.
I could, in Toy Story 3, I could maybe understand that. Maybe that's why Ken shows up in Toy Story 3. Who knows?
Yeah.
But I mean, it's good that they got rid of it. But at this point, it's kind of had nobody caught on to it, it probably would have gone, missing for however long.
I agree. So, well, that is going to do it for us today. But Steve, we do hope you have a great time while you're away. Keep it locked here to Disney 101. We're going to have some, I'll put up that video I mentioned within the next couple of days and some more fun stuff here. If anything drops, maybe I'll jump on to a little solo deal here. If there's something pressing that, we need to jump on and chat about real quick, maybe I'll bug someone, my wife or someone to jump on with me and talk about it. But I think we'll be okay. And hopefully, Steve, you'll be up to coming on next week and telling us how your trip went.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we'll have a very happy birthday as well. I know your birthday is coming up on Thursday, right?
Yep. So if you happen to call me at midnight on Thursday, I unfortunately will not be able to answer. But you can still leave an awesome voicemail and everything. I'll be okay with that.
There you go. Now, that was Steve's nice way of saying it. Just because I'll be away, don't you think that this is going to give you an excuse not to leave me that 12 a.m. Tommy Lynch voicemail?
Yeah, absolutely.
I remember last year we were together, I think the day before your birthday, and then I flew back and still called you to wish you that happy birthday.
Yep.
So,
yes, you did.
Can't get away with that tradition. So,
no.
But indeed, have a very, very good time. I'm jealous, and I hope that you and Amanda have a great time.
Yeah, thanks.
All right, everybody, and thanks so much for checking us out here on Disney 101. You can follow us over on Twitter at Disney 101 Pod. That is also our Instagram, and we'll be looking forward to some great photos from Steve when he does return. But until next time, everybody, thanks so much for checking us out here on Disney 101.